Hi, friends, and welcome back to Vigor Active Health Chats. We've got a great guest for you today. This guest definitely fits the mold of what we do on the show. He is a health professional and a little bit different than myself. If I've told you what I do, a little different than me, but also doing a great thing. And he's also part of the downtown ecosystem. You could find him at Freeform Chiropractic on 7th Street. And so I would like to welcome Dr. Dustin Worthington to the show. Dr. Worthington, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks
It's
for
a pleasure. So I want to just talk to you for a couple minutes. I want to raise awareness about what you do because I don't think that there is a good awareness. I'm going to raise my hand and say there's not a good awareness because I did not know. And we were talking about this the other day. I've always been kind of a dumb, not broke, don't fix it kind of guy, but I think there's a bigger maintenance component into what you do. So I want to hear about all this. But to start, if you wouldn't mind, tell me how you got into this. Tell me what drives you to do what you do. And kind of like what pushes you day to day.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes into that, I would say. Initially, so I first became a chiropractor because I wanted to help people. I got my first bachelor's in kinesiology.
Okay.
And I knew that I wanted to be in the healthcare field. My sophomore year in high school, I couldn't run track. And my friends, they told me to go see this chiropractor. I had no idea what it was, nothing about it, just like with the awareness that you just talked about. And I went and saw him and he completely changed my life. I did really well my freshman year, and then my coaches expected a lot from me my sophomore year. I couldn't run, so I saw this chiropractor, changed my life, got me back on the track, got me back on the field. And so I wanted to do something like that. And then once I got to college, I shadowed a chiropractor, I shadowed a couple physical therapists, PAs. And then I moved to Dallas. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, become a chiropractor, because I saw so much in those guys. Their patients love them, and that's what I wanted to provide to the community, to get people out there and really change their life. And why I do it is because I get people who come in for pain and they can't do what they love, right? They can't come to the gym, for example, or they can't play with their kids, right? They can't even go on a walk. They can't go shopping. And so to see that change in somebody, that's what is really fulfilling for me, because that's what helps me sleep at night, is basically changing someone's life in that aspect, having them do what they love. And that's important to me, right?
Talk to a lot of people in health related industries, and it seems like we all sort of say the same thing. And then we branch off into these different areas, right? Some may be exercise, some obviously nutrition, dietitians,
Exactly.
and then we've got chiropractic coming in, which obviously plays a huge part in things. I know you do things differently, and we're going to get into that in a second. So, so would you say that what you learned when freshman year you said, or sophomore, somewhere in there, freshman year when you went to a chiropractor was the same as what you're doing now? What did they do that is somewhat similar to what you do, or is it completely different?
So the aspects of chiropractic actually means hands only. That's like literally the word that it actually means.
I did not know.
And so I know, right? And so that's why I use my hands for everything. But during that time, I mean, this was back in high school. So we're talking years. I mean, what is it? 25 years ago, or not 25 years, back in 2010.
Sure.
It was different, but the same aspect of chiropractic care was the same. How he treated me in terms of exam, all that jazz, that was a little bit different than how I do things now, just because we have new technology. X-rays are fast. We got digital X-rays.
Sure.
So that gives us a lot more information a lot quicker. So we have access to a lot better technology, just different methods. And so the basis hasn't changed in terms of chiropractic care. How he treated me, yes, it was different, here and there, but for the most part, that hasn't changed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So
Real quick, take me through a standard, and don't let me forget, because I've got to tell them what's going on with me, because that's like, people should hear that, right?
yeah,
Like, oh, you got that problem? Get in there.
that's right.
So a person shows up. What's your standard operating procedure from when you meet them to maybe, I don't know, first week of treatment or something like that?
Yeah, like a new patient.
Sure.
Perfect. So someone who I've never met. So when somebody comes in, they've been to a chiropractor before or haven't been to a chiropractor, they're nervous. It doesn't matter. My protocol doesn't change at all. So first we do an exam. I do a thorough exam, ask questions, because the exam is information for me. After that, I check their spine. I get hands-on because I need to see exactly what I feel, what's going on with that. And then based on what I feel from that perspective, I take x-rays on almost everybody unless they're kiddos or pregnant mamas. I see a lot of pregnant moms, so I'm obviously not going to take x-rays on them. But I do an x-ray, and then I actually go over those x-rays later that evening or during my lunch. And then on the next visit, I typically go over the x-rays with the patient. Hey, this is what's wrong. This is what we need to do to fix it, basically. And then I go over what treatment looks like. During that process, there's different phases of care. And I just got to adapt to that as we go through their care. And that's why we do re-exams. And then at a certain point, also retake x-rays so we can see objective changes, right? From a patient standpoint, you can say, hey, I feel great. I'm feeling a lot better. That's all subjective, but I want something objective, something we can actually measure. Mm-hmm. And that's why I take a re-x-ray, eventually move to patients to wellness. Like I see a couple professional athletes, they don't come in for pain. They come in for maintenance, tune-ups, right? Just to, yep, exactly, performance-based. So that's kind of the basic procedure. And I take x-rays to make sure I can help first.
Are x-rays standard? Because I've been in your industry, because I don't know too many that do an x-ray. Is that emerging, or is it only you, or?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I would say a lot of chiropractic, some do and some don't. There's different offices, and it's just kind of how I do things because I need to see what's going on, right? I can't tell you that I can help you if I don't know, right? And so x-rays, that's just more information for me. It's a blueprint of your spine, so that way we can actually see, because I want to improve it, and if you can't measure it, you can't improve it, right? And so that's why really important for me. There's different offices that don't take x-rays. There's nothing wrong with that at all. That's just not how I do things. I have my procedure and I stick to it because I want to see what's going on. I need to see like a blueprint of, hey, this is what I have to work with. This is what we can actually change. So,
I think it's great. And I remember on your computer screen, you're able to really look at the curves or lack thereof.
Yes, exactly.
Or whatever. There's a straight line from cervical to thoracic. I don't think it's supposed to be that way.
Exactly.
Maybe we need to change.
Yes.
Well, that's awesome, and you've got the passion for doing and helping people, and so I'll briefly go through and tell everybody what I experienced. Right, so
yeah, absolutely.
Starting it off, and I was telling you this the other day, I'm a not broke, don't fix it kind of guy, so always thought, I don't really need that, and maybe I had the thought that once you started to, mobilize the spine in a certain way, it would need it constantly. But now after doing this, I don't think that that's the case. You probably do need it to be moved, but I was not able to do it on my own. It was one of those types of things where the extra hands are useful. So, for the audience, I was reaching in the back of my car, and always been an exerciser. I think everybody kind of knows that, but reaching in the back of my car, I've got two little children, somebody dropped something on the ground, and I'm really pushing for it, kind of pushed on the seat, and then nothing sudden, but it was like the next day something just I felt like, well, something's turned, or I don't know what, that was the feeling that I had, right? Go back about my exercise business, and then you get this sharp pain, you're like, oh, geez. And I told you this before, playing soccer a long time ago, I had a spondylolysis, which is a little pars fracture. Felt a lot different than that, right? Pars fracture, I could do that and like, oh, I feel it.
Yep, exactly.
And you could tell that it was like, okay, this is something that will probably go away. This didn't seem like it was going to go away. So go into Dr. Worthington in pain, and, he did the full assessment. And now we're, how far down the road? A month?
Yeah, 2 months.
Yeah, maybe 2 months. The pain was gone after about a month. I just want people to know that they don't have to really deal with those things. You can go to a professional, and as far as personality goes, I've never been to another chiropractor. As far as personality goes, I tell them to come to you for that reason, because you're a nice man, right? That also helps with these one-on-one type of treatments and relationships. But people shouldn't not do anything about it. I think it's important. It's important to go seek help.
Exactly. And just to touch on that too, your body, almost think of it like when your vehicle oil light comes on or whatever it is, that's your vehicle telling you something's wrong, right? And pain is just a preceptor of, hey, something's not right. And so that's your body, basically you're telling your brain that, hey, something isn't correct or something isn't right. So you did something that's your body just talking to you, right? So you need the quicker you address that, the quicker you'll get better. Because I see a lot of patients with, chronicity, low back issues, neck issues, upper back, especially today's age where everyone is working from home. Our posture is absolutely terrible, sedentary lifestyles. And so when that happens over time, if you don't address it, it gets harder to fix if you wait longer. So,
and to just sort of reminded me of something as you were speaking on that. Somebody else said to me once, like, you take your car in probably 12 times a year to check on its health, yet we check on our bodies. Some individuals check on their body's health like what? Once every 10 years or something.
exactly.
It's just why do we care? We've got the body. This is probably the most important thing to us. We've got this body, but we decide that it's not that important to sort of check it out. I'll still make my wife take my body fat just to see where it's at. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to creep on there's too much disease associated. Once you get to the 25 range, there's way too much disease associated with that point, right?
Exactly.
So there's a lot of interesting things there. What are the main, shifting gears, what are the main conditions that you see in people when they come in?
Oh, man. Main ones, definitely low back, hip issues. Really, really common, especially, like I said, people are working from home.
Mm-hmm.
I see that a lot just in men more than women typically. Women, I see a lot of neck issues, upper back issues, and headaches quite a bit. So shoulder issues and then hip issues, those are probably the most common areas that I do see. Because if we think about it, we're the only bipeds on the planet. So if I were to draw a plumb line from my ear to your shoulder, typically we're coming down like this, right? And so our shoulders roll forward. That places a lot of stress on the back, right? The extensors in the back, as you know, they're being stretched all the time. And that's why the back is kind of neglected. So we have to really strengthen that, open up the chest, strengthen the upper back, low back, so that opens us back up. So those are probably the most common things that I do see.
You said the words facet syndrome to me before.
Mm-hmm.
What actually is that?
So facet syndrome, that's a really generalized term, but what that is facets are another word for the joints, right? And so if there's any sort of irritation with the joints, or if the joints are in the correct position, that's what we define as facet syndrome. So any sort of extension, especially in the low back, that places a lot of stress right on the facets because the facets are angled actually differently in your lumbar spine than the mid back, the thoracic spine, as well as the cervical spine.
Okay.
So it's just irritation of those facets, really kind of a generalized term with that.
So usually, I think from what I'm getting from my treatments and from talking to you today, the more we can get the spine, the actual spine, because if I was to teach people, I'd let them know there's all these muscles around the spine. So don't just think of your entire back as your spine. Your spine is a very specific thing. As we can get more movement through it, back pains can just start to feel better because of that movement that's occurring.
Yes.
Is it true that facets can cut? Because they're all bone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know the things that fuse.
Well, there's
together.
cartilage right on the facets.
Okay.
Yeah, so to allow for easier movement.
Do vertebrae ever try to fuse together on their own?
So over time, if those bones haven't moved for years, so I see that a lot in elderly patients, over time it becomes bone on bone where we see desiccation of the disc, basically decreased disc space. Because on X-ray you can see the space, you can't actually see the disc unless you have an MRI. So over time, eventually it will be bone on bone. And if that's a case, and I'm talking the vertebral bodies, that's a little bit different than the facets. So over time, if it does get bone on bone, that's when we start seeing bone spurs, arthritis, degenerative changes. If it is bone on bone, there's a point where I can't really help because that's more of a surgical consult. It could be a fusion, bone cement, things like that. Okay. So I try and keep the spine moving because if the spine is moving, then degeneration can occur. That process cannot occur because the bones are actually moving.
This has been incredibly enlightening.
I know. I love it.
You're a true professional. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep helping people. Keep being part of the Forward community because I love it. You always let me know if you need anything. Is there any final words you want to shout out to the listeners out there?
Thank you for having me. I just love this. I've never done this before, and I just hope I can educate the community. Doctor means teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I take that super seriously. The more people I can educate, the more people I can change, just one spine at a time.
I say we do this regularly.
Let's do it.
Have you back in a couple of months. We'll have a whole new ball game of stuff to talk about.
I love it. Let's do it.
Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us on Vigor Active Health Chats. We'll catch you next time.